What's going on, y'all? It's J Small Reviews here, back at it again with another video. Bringing you guys today yet another NOME battle record, man. Said I wanted to get as many of these out as possible, and we do have about a week now. This upcoming weekend will be NOME 14, and I figured who better to do a NOME battle record for than someone who's going to be headlining, having their God tier legacy moment here coming up, and that is Nitty. And we'll be doing his record here over the other 5 NOMEs that he's had. A lot of high quality opponents. Some known lows, actually some career lows for the most part. There's a few different things to talk about with Nitty on NOME. As per usual, we're going to go through each battle, going to give it a winner, a loser, talk a little bit about how he got there and a little bit about maybe the effect that it had in his career in that moment. And I usually say this towards the end of the video, but please let me know if you want me to do any more NOME battle records or any more of these based around another event, a battler on Volume, a battler on SM. Please leave your suggestions down below. I love doing this series. And even though I'm only doing it around NOME, I want to do it based around other stuff. I just think it's cool to go over the history, the record. So you got any suggestions, please let me know in the comments down below. Without further ado, we'll start with Nitty's NOME debut. And that initial NOME was NOME 6, where Nitty battled Tay-Rock. And there's a few things, to talk about where we were going into this battle, because this was like a huge look for Nitty. Both of them had been chopping, going at it for a little bit. This is Nitty's like a first rise on URL. Obviously, he had a pretty somewhat storied career to this point. He had already went through his King of the Dot run where he battled Arsenal, big stage, Magic and ORED. Even though he kind of lost those battles, he was good in them, but he had already gotten some weight under his belt. And then before the Rock battle, you had the Ab battle, super historic, the Ill Will battle, kind of historic, if not just for the nose running bar. That battle is fantastic. He had beaten Clips, so he had done some things. He'd been calling out Tay-Rock the whole time, and now this was his first, not his first big stage battle in general, but first URL big stage battle. You know what I'm saying? This initial NOME was kind of what the culmination of this run had led up to, and they had the whole, they're both super gun bar heavy. Rock's pretty much dead in the middle of his prime at this point. And it was the Gun Bar King versus Gunline King dialogue, which I'm not going to lie, we all respect Nitty for his gun bars, but that Gunline King never stuck. That title, that initial run to get that title never stuck at all. But it did lead to the hype of this battle, right? And a lot of people remember this as the headliner. It was not. We talked about it in the T-Top battle record, that T-Top and Surf, in fact, was the headliner for NOME 6. But this was the co-headliner, and it went last. The hype was there. The grudge was there. And the first round starts off good. I know this is not a good battle. We don't remember it as a good battle. But if you do watch it, the first round tells a different story. Rock's first is, pretty good. It's not a crazy Rock round. What was it? Take a home invasion. I told my guys, get the top floor. And Rock got the bottom covered like a fish tank. I put you in the trunk in the Pontiac with that other fucking will. He had a couple bars I remember liking a lot, the doppelganger scheme. And Nitty's first is actually a great introduction to the URL big stage for Nitty. He's the conceited Ozzy Osbourne call out in the beginning. The top flight security joint was dope. One mocha sit in your mug. I do this shit a lot, Tay. Go in your mouth with the little Uzi. Now you can mumble rap, which is the haymaker that most people remember, built up well. And my personal favorite bar of his first is actually his ender. And we all know how big ending rounds is. And he had the Jesus Shuttlesworth, let Jesus handle Rock, thinking he got game.
Fucking Dot Cave is fourth motherfucking homie. My whole team might bang. And them niggas will get on your head if you speak my name. Nigga, we not playing. Fully automatic pop. Then I let Jesus handle Rock, thinking he got game. Nigga, real shit. You can't keep it real yourself.
I thought that was crazy, and I thought his first showed a lot of confidence. He was able to go up there and really punch with him and gun bar with him, you know what I'm saying, which was the basis why people were looking forward to this battle. So I had Nitty up 1-0, and then the fights happened. The scuffles happened. Nitty and Rock, pushing each other. Rock having to turn Nitty's hat, the pocket check that Nitty did, which I thought was kind of fire at an era that, there was a lot of, the pocket check era was very heavy then, but, being that there was a grudge in this battle, I get it. All the reactions on both sides, it just ends up in a bunch of nothing for real, and it is one of those situations where it did take away from the battle. Sometimes I think a scuffle, particularly in Rock battles, kind of like Cal and Rock, it adds to the energy of the battle, but we all know Cal and Rock is a classic, and we know what the fuck this battle is, and it all goes downhill. Because Rock's second is, cool. I think Nitty's second is alright. Neither of them had a trash round, but neither of them snatched around whatsoever. So you get this, super toss-up where sometimes I got Nitty, sometimes I got Rock. It was close enough, and it's close enough too where not only you take it away from the battle, but it feels like no one's running away with it either. And then you get to the third round of the battle, and Rock has a beatable third. Like, Rock's third it's not, once again, not trash, but more in line with his second. Like, it's just okay. And then Nitty goes and raps, to this day, the worst round I've heard Rob Nitty rap, at least in terms of, like, since he's hit like a next level type of like star top tier level. This was awful, and it's the infamous Miss Hustle angle, you know what I'm saying, about Rock, one of the actual first Rock Fred angles, which is kind of crazy because now all this time later there's been so many transgender angles versus Rock, so many times bringing up Fred, so many times been done great, so many times that were really just a couple times been done great, and then a lot of times been done poorly. And this is actually one of those like first examples of it, and it's one of the absolute worst. And this was Nitty when angling. I mean, to this day he's not much of an angler, but this is where, a lot of questions actually started to have to be asked about Nitty after this third round. Because then not only after the angle people don't remember, it's something that Nitty does when he's losing and he's not doing good, is he races through his material. Like, he will, like, rap fast as hell and like race to the end of his round almost. And he does that in the second half of this third, and he's getting no reaction because he's going through it so quickly. It's kind of like super fast forward, and it's almost really awkward. And that's after you've been booed for executing an angle terribly. It's not only him at his worst in terms of the things he couldn't do at the time, then it's him giving some of his worst punching possible. So it's a complete nightmare ending, and that's why, even though I do think that there is some debate with the second, like, we're being technical about the W and the L, there is debate with him having a good first and the second being close enough. But for this one, what it did to his stock really is the worst known performance from either battler, if I gotta be perfect, like, in there. And Rock has quite the resume, and it's not high up there for him, but it's easily the worst of Nitty's, and that's why I'm gonna give Rum Nitty an L with this one. You can call it the second and the third. Just terrible for his stock. And then he had the JC loss on SM after this. So I'm not gonna lie to you, some of those early questions about Rum Nitty on a big stage, Rum Nitty versus better opponents, like in star-like opponents, those situations, they were kind of valid after a couple rough big stage like results on URL. So the next NOME he would be on is not NOME 7, it would be NOME 8, which was URL's first trip to Houston. And kind of interesting because NOME 6 and NOME 7 were in the same year, and he debuted on NOME 6 with a few other names that debuted. Chess, Briz, T-Top, all their first NOME. So all four of them debut. NOME 7 comes, the other three return, Nitty does not. So might play to that factor of Nitty not really impressing on the big stage, right? But then, like I said, gets to Houston, and on NOME 8, he does headline, first NOME headliner, versus the return of Sue Surf, who, of course, freed the wave still, and this was his return back in around 2018. And this is a battle that, much better than Rock and Nitty, of course. A lot more in terms of what fans remember, some great lines, but comes with a little controversy of its own, right? So you go to the first round, and this is where if you're a fan of either side, you're in love with this battle. This is where you remember the good things. Nitty with the put Surf on a can, it's a Hawaiian punch, crazy. And even before that, for a guy that name flips a lot, one of the best name flips of his career. Surf even said this is probably the best name flip that's been used against him, and that is the Souvenirs punch.
Hey, on a serious tip, a nigga get clipped, tip me then, and see how many men this 50 stick pick. Or I knock your teeth out, you get hit with this bitch. They gonna have to bring souvenirs back. You gonna remember this shit.
Wildly creative. So some really like big standouts. On top of that, his in-between writing in the first was really good too. I'm not going to quote, if we're going through the battles, I'm not going to quote every bar here, but very jam-packed, heavy Rum Nitty first. However, people will debate because later in the round he has either a hard stumble or a choke. You can choose what to call it, and it reminds you kind of like what what people make fun of Swamp for now, where when he messes up, he's like, oh fuck. Like, he makes it very obvious. He speaks to it. And Nitty was like, oh, fuck that part up, I fucked that part up. And he gets it back within like 5 seconds. He does get it back quick. However, he made a big scene of it. I'm here to tell you, no matter how you called that, he was going to lose the first anyways. And I know. Sue Surf said some ridiculous shit in the first. He said, long arm Mr. Incredible. He has strong arms, not long arms. You meant Mr. Fantastic. He also said, which is only parking lot. That means all brooms. I know, it stinks. I know he had a couple bad ones, but it's an 8 to 9 minute surf round, and outside of those, he really did wild out for pretty much the entirety of the round. He has the stick a little something in the rum like Bill Cosby. Crazy. You can have debatable battles when you 30 people in real life. Stupid. The Scott now we're gonna talk about his scheme terrorism in the next round. However, the Star Wars scheme that he had in the first round was actually wildly creative. Like, I thought it was really, really good. He not only matched Nitty with some of those PK makers that we just spoke of, but he rapped better, he performed better, kind of embraced the crowd, had that sing-along feel that Surf can kind of have during his rounds. He just had a better first. So people will debate and whine about the first, if Nitty choked, if he didn't, if he won. Nitty didn't win the first. He had a great first. We can remember it as a great first, but he didn't win the first either way. You add the choke and the stumble, definitely didn't win it. Then you get to the second round of this battle, and definitely the battle kind of tails off after the first. So I will say, we're going to talk about the result, but I don't think that this helped the Nitty kind of like what narrative around his name, around not being the most explosive on a big stage. Although he's having these great first rounds, the second comes in. His second is good. Nitty's second is really good, and it's aged very good as well. The sumo round I had to put my foot down. The half pikes and skaters to the sky. Like, he had some good shit. However, it's worse than his first, right? And now you're facing the return of Surf. He's outmatched a heavy first from you, right? And now your second is a step down. So the door was open for Surf to take the second. And in the building, and to this day, some people will tell you that he did. But once again, I am here to tell you that he did not. And I have to do it because I'm so tired of debating people about this one. This is one I take personally. This is Sue Surf's second round up here. That's his second round. And maybe I might have even pointed to the wrong spot. I don't know. But this is Sue Surf's second round. Some of it, you'll see an asterisk, a star. That's because he pretended that they were rebuttals. I do not think that they were rebuttals. It is an X-Men scheme. It is a dog scheme. And it's a Dragon Ball Z bar. I understand the love for Surf. He even performed pretty well through it, to be honest, for what the material is. But that's what the material is. He did not win the second versus Rum Nitty, man. I'm glad that he won in the building. But time has went on. I feel like time is favored. And people see that even if Nitty's second wasn't the craziest, this is how you can tell. And granted, Surf even said around this time he's having some issues you've seen outside of battle rap, and it shows. Second, not a lot of effort. Then the third, obviously, Sue Surf chokes. Unlike his third versus T-Top, where I think he choked because he really got thrown off, I really don't think that he had a third here, or at least he kind of alluded that, saying, I gave 2 rounds, all I needed 2. I think Smack even said, like, that's all I needed was 2 from you. It's kind of crazy, to be honest, in the post-game interview. Is what it is, though. And Nitty's third was very beatable, so he did right downhill again. Not a great sign, but gave him the third with that one. So although I think the door was open for Surf, and it was so open that some people wish that he had actually walked through it, I do believe and have always believed that Rum Nitty won this battle 2-1, second and third. And although in the moment that did not help, like the noise around his name about winning some of these against some of these stars in the big stage, it does put him at 1-1 on his NOME battle record. So now we get to our first consecutive NOMEs for Nitty, and on NOME 9, back in Houston, best NOME card of all time. It would go on to be, in my opinion, best card in battle rap history. And that would be another grudge match, Rum Nitty versus K-Shine. Love this battle, built up for so long. How many times, similar to how he was shooting at Rock, he shot at Shine even more wanting this battle. It had been like 2-3 years in the making. And now you get Shine in the middle of a great run for him. This is in the middle of that late 2017 to 2020, that 3-year Shine peak that people always talk about. Would love to do a video on that one day. Might do it. But you go for the first round of this battle, and it starts heavy, similar to the first other 2 battles that we talked about. Starts on Nitty, and I think this is one that's been appreciated more over time. I think that it was a good round. The building, Walmart, get my Target interview, give anybody heat shine through a thermal scope. I just think that more and more people see it's a complete round. Doesn't have the peaks that he'll have later in the battle, but I think from beginning to end, he really didn't waste too many words. And you want to talk about not wasting a second, you got to look at the first half, the 2/3 of Shine's first, and the energy that he gave. While Nitty wrote very good in the first, Shine was able to match that with his performance. It is that writing versus performance battle, and Shine showed why he is the performer that he is. It is his best round of the battle. He has the throw rum up like a hangover. Crazy. What else did he have in that first round? I'm not thinking of. Tape everywhere. Listen to my artist. Crazy. He had his own tell Mr. Walmart I won't miss the target. So he had his own flip on it. I will say, and a lot of people off of that first half, first 2/3 of Shine's first, give it to Shine. I can't be mad at to this day because he was performing at that high of a level. But the back half of the round, he definitely loses steam. And not just in the way that people rewatch Shine battles and pick apart the bars, like, oh, they're not all that, it's just the way he's performing it. Nah, it's just that he loses steam. Like, if you watch it, content goes down a little bit, landing rate goes down a little bit, and for me, I feel like Nitty has just a more complete first beginning to end. I think Shine peaks higher in that first half, but if you go back and remember it, you remember all that Shine performativeness. Watch the last 2 to 3 minutes of that first. I feel like he kind of wraps himself out of the round. So I edged Nitty the first round of that battle, and then the next 2 rounds really decide themselves. Nitty has a legacy moment in the second. I personally think it's the best round Nitty's ever wrapped in his career, second versus K Shine. You look at bars like the 22-2s, if there's a reasonable doubt, that's the performance bar. That's the one that broke the building and everyone remembers. But the Saving McDowell's crazy. Rotten Dot, Rotten Dot, and this your Death Sight, leading up into my favorite bar of his second, and that is the Deer in the Headlights. Similar to the other ones we highlighted, just the creativity.
Hit his head twice, and you're gonna be a rotten dot. And this your Death Sight. Bullet get lodged right there in your chest plate. A whole buck stuck in Shine. Deer in the headlights. Some dead night.
Is crazy. So he got the second clear. I think Shine's second is really good too. To Infinity and Beyond, I thought that whole Buzz Lightyear shit he did was wild, but it was a clear round for me. And then the third, Nitty chokes, and that's what changes, this battle from being, because he did have better content in the third and people talk about it, but you can't give a guy a round that he chokes. I see a little bit of convo recently about that. You do not give someone a round they choke. We don't got a lot of rules here, man, but that's one of the goddamn rules. We can't do that. So he loses the third, and then instead of this going into the signature win, I mean, there's still great positives for Nitty in this battle. Hell, I have Nitty edging the battle, edging the first and taking the second. And many do, but there's a lot of people that have Shine edging that first round, rightfully so, and then have him taking the third. So instead of being that signature win, completing that, Nitty still has a great battle here. I have him 2-1, but it could have been a much better result, you know what I'm saying, looking back, if he just completes his third more clean. And that leaves you with the last 2 battles here, and second to last, his last 1v1 battle. So the last ones that really count, the legacy changers, and that is NOME 11, another headliner performance where Rum Nitty rematched Geechee Gotti, UM3 final for the 150K. Drake front row adds it. Historic moment for battle rap, and a really, really good battle. And the result of it in terms of how they split the cash, 75 each, co-winners of the tournament. That whole part of the story is great. We know the battle was good, but it really was like one of the better known main events ever, in my personal opinion. They were extremely complete pretty much for all 3 rounds, and I will say, kind of the theme I was setting up before with Nitty having moments versus Surf or having moments versus Shine. Granted, I have him winning, but he has his flaws in those battles too. We know definitely the flaws he has in the Rock battle. This is complete, and I think this is the journey of a star you see for a guy that now has been in the game long time at this level and knows the moment. And yes, he has his moment, the Drake Cup bar, crazy. The bigotry, Old Bay seasoning bars in the first, crazy. His first in this battle is phenomenal. But it's about completing it without much of a hiccup, with a certain level of confidence, and Geechee's able to reply all 3 rounds with that kind of same level. You're getting the more bar-for-bar approach from Nitty with the more all-around approach from Geechee Gotti. Their first battle, that was like the SM battle that they couldn't make it to the UK, so they shot it kind of like in a quieter setting. I've always thought Geechee won that battle clear, and for me, this was Nitty, getting that get back a little bit. I do have Nitty in the first 2 rounds of this battle. There's a lot of people I know that have Geechee in the second and the third, so it's another great debatable battle, which is what you're getting a lot of here, but when you have legends warring, especially near their prime, that's what it's going to be a lot of the time, you know what I mean? I love Geechee's manuscript bar. My favorite bar from him in the entire battle. And then as for Nitty, I think the Drake cut, the freestyle, is kind of the biggest moment for him. So I don't know. It's a battle that I think I reviewed on this channel. I might have went back and reviewed it before. I've definitely talked about it a few times. I think it is very good. I don't think it's as clear as people make it out to be, where they're like, oh, Nitty clearly got the first 2 and they just split. Like, no, I think there's a real argument for Geechee in that second and third. But I thought Nitty, kind of like I talked about in that first Shine, really consistent, man. He's just not wasting too many words as he goes on with his round. He clearly lost the third round. After the Drake rebuttal, he kind of he had a cool third, you know what I'm saying? But it wasn't the craziest. It was just cool, and he got cleared out there. So another really, really good battle, another headliner, and for me, an edged victory, bringing him to 3-1. the final known battle, which I will spend the least amount of time on because it's a 2-on-2 battle. And for those of you that have watched me, you know I'm not the biggest fan of 2-on-2 battles. I do count them, though. It was on a gnome, don't get me wrong. And it was a pretty good battle, I will have to say. Nitty and New Jersey Twerk versus Tay Rock and Geechee Gotti. Star Power just happened last year. And the main event for that card as well, which is where you start to see these headliners build up. Lux will be the fourth. It'll actually be Nitty and Surfer tied for first all-time in NOME headliners. They both got 4. So, very frequent flyer with the headlining of the event. And it's a good battle, particularly the first from Nitty and Twerk, even though it is long as hell. And apparently they had another 15 minutes or so. So the lost files and that probably has to be as good as what we got. And they give a great first. I feel like they took the first very clearly in this battle. And if we could just skip right to the third, we know that Geechee kind of has an ISO moment and is incredible in the third. Rock has a moment of his own, but they clearly win the third of this battle. It's a 2-on-2. You know what I'm saying? They're just kind of trading blows. So it comes down to the second, which very similar, Edge, Nitty, and Twerk. Just feel like they were doing a little bit more bar for bar. I don't think either team, I thought it was like a really good showing. I thought Nitty and Twerk really, in the first, in terms of like testing the limits almost like lyrically, doing all types of different concepts and different ideas. I think that's where they really sparked. I don't think the crowd appreciated nearly how great that first was they got. I feel like the second is very good in its own right. It is a dip down just because of how high they set that bar, but I just personally had them edging the second round of the battle. Then you get to the third, Geechee had the shit, have her sniffing so much gunpowder, she sneezed a bullet. Crazy. But when you look at the overall record, even though it's a 2-on-2 got attacking on, it does bring my final battle record for Nitty on NOME to 4-1. And that is the full video here for Nitty's NOME battle record. Also, when it comes to the clips, when it comes to like the app battles, it's just hard for me to go and get the clips for them. So if there's a clip missing here or there, specifically for the 2-on-2, my bad on that one. But hope you guys have enjoyed this kind of summary. Personally, I have it 4-1. If there's any battle I could see someone flipping on, it's obviously the K-Shine battle. You look at any voting metric, any debate around that battle, it's damn near violent for the two sides going for who they felt won. Style clash at that. You had the choke. There's a level of controversy. So I could see someone having it at 3-2. But, you guys let me know in the comments down below. How do you call it? What do you think were some of the high points that Nitty's had here? What do you think were, we already know what the low point was, right? And more importantly, where do you see Nitty and Lux falling amongst this kind of catalog? Do you think it'll be his best NOME moment so far? Do you think it'll be somewhere in between like a Shine or a Surf where it's done wonders for him, but it feels like he could have done a little more to even further emphasize it? Love to hear your guys' opinions in the comments down below. Probably will be my last NOME battle record for the time being, but a couple more pieces of NOME content coming out, and then obviously we will have NOME 14 this weekend, which will get recapped. But it's been Jay Small Reviews again, y'all. As I said, like, comment, subscribe. I'm gonna catch you on the next one, man. Peace.